Welcome to the Crusader Kings 2 Monarch Academy. In this series, we're going to teach you everything you need to know to play Crusader Kings 2 effectively. And today's focus is the character screen, which you can always access by clicking on the portrait of your current character in the top left part of the screen. This is sort of like a character sheet in an RPG, and it'll tell you everything about your character from their age, to their religion and culture, to what they're good at stat-wise, and maybe not so good at. We'll start right here at the top. As you can see, I'm playing as Duke William, the Bastard of Normandy. This will tell you your primary title, and also might come with a nickname if you've earned one. Current age will give you an idea of how close your character is to dying and being replaced by their successor, as character age plays a role in the calculation that determines whether you die randomly or get some sort of terrible illness. Generally, past age 60, characters have a much higher chance of dying. The religion space will tell you what religion your character follows and will also describe the special features of this religion. In the case of Catholicism, they have bishops who pay taxes to the Pope. The Pope is elected from among these bishops, and the Pope can grant a lot of boons to Catholics who he agrees with, such as excommunicating your rivals, granting divorces, or granting you an invasion, which is how Duke William actually got a claim on the Kingdom of England in the 1066 start. This little icon here tells you what type of government you're running. Crusader Kings 2 includes feudal governments, but also tribal and nomadic societies, as well as Muslim iqdas and merchant republics, and they all play significantly differently. This flag tells you what house your character represents, and by clicking on it, you can see your entire family tree. In Duke William's case, it goes all the way back to Hrolfr, also sometimes known as Rollo, the Viking who settled in Normandy and became a vassal of the French king to protect his realm from other Vikings. And this line here tells you what culture your character is of, which is a combination of customs and language. The way Crusader Kings models culture can be a little bit inconsistent, but the upshot of it is provinces and vassals of your same culture, or at least within your culture group, for Norman that would be the Latin culture group, are going to be easier to control than those that are of a different culture or culture group. This button here allows you to set an ambition for your character, which are short-term goals that will give you various events and sometimes special mechanics. For example, if I decided to take the Become King of France ambition, it would give my Chancellor a chance of fabricating a claim on the entire Kingdom of France, instead of just fabricating on a single county or duchy. But we'll get to that when we talk about council roles. If you have the Way of Life expansion, this button allows you to choose a character focus, which is basically what kind of lifestyle they're going to lead and how they're going to try to improve themselves as a ruler. This can be anything from being a better businessman, seducing other characters to create a convoluted dynasty of illegitimate children, which is always fun, going on great hunts, which actually increases your character's health and leads to the odd phenomenon that most Crusader Kings rulers seem to take up hunting around age 55. Carousing, which will allow you to invite your vassals and allied rulers to drink and improve your opinion with them. Or even scholarship, which opens up some events related to science and learning. Now the next bit is probably the most important part of the character screen. These are your core stats: diplomacy, martial, stewardship, intrigue, and learning. These affect just about everything from how other characters see your character to how good your character actually is at governing the realm. Diplomacy involves getting along with other characters, and your diplomacy stat will directly affect others' opinion of you. Your martial stat affects military matters in the realm, such as how many men you can call to war, but also how good of a commander you are if you take charge on the battlefield. Stewardship will increase the prosperity of your realm, give you chances for events that add prosperity if you have the Reaper's Due expansion, increase taxes, and this is also the stat that allows you to convert conquered counties to your own culture. Intrigue is the stat that governs things like assassination and kidnapping plots, both how good you are at them and how good you are at defending against them. And your learning stat primarily will increase how quickly your realm gains technology points, which again we'll go over in its own video. Beneath that is a row that represents your traits. Traits generally are where a lot of these stats come from, with positive traits like Diligent giving you bonuses to your stats, whereas not so positive ones like Cynical might give you penalties. Of course, a lot of them are a mixed bag, Cynical and Proud both being among those. The very first trait on the list is your learning trait, which has a lot to do with your upbringing, something, again, we'll go over in a different video. Duke William is a brilliant strategist, which is the highest level of the martial education path, and makes him very good at warfare, as well as intrigue and stewardship, and increases his health and his personal combat skill, which affects how well you do in duels and single combat against other characters. He's also legitimized bastard, hence the nickname William the Bastard. Legitimized meaning he can inherit titles from his parent dynasty, but it does decrease his diplomacy as bastards were not seen with a lot of prestige in this era. Ambitious gives him bonuses to every stat, but also causes his top liege to dislike him, currently we're a vassal of King Philippe of France, although we'll see how long that contract remains in place if we manage to conquer England. Lieges generally don't like ambitious vassals, and this is something you should pay attention to when you have vassals of your own, as they're far more likely to plot against you and try to gain your titles or gain independence. Content characters like working for someone else, ambitious characters do not. Some other traits Duke William has are Brave, which increases a lot of his combat stats, as well as his vassal opinion. Temperate, which gives a bonus to stewardship and makes churchmen like him, as generally most positive traditional virtues do. And Patient, which gives bonuses to intrigue, diplomacy, stewardship, and learning, as well as increases your defense in battle. Right next to the combat modifier icon, you'll see any traits that pertain to this character's specific fighting style on the battlefield. William is best known as a defender, so he does slightly less damage, but his troops gain 25% defense when he's leading them. This next column over here represents the resources your character has available to them. Domain size is the number of counties that you control directly. Vassal limit tells you how many vassals you have and how many you possibly can manage. The army levies pop-up will tell you how many men you can call to war, as well as ships if you have them. Wealth tells you how much money is in your treasury and how much you're gaining or losing per month. Currently, William's in the red, but he has a nice war chest, so hopefully his conquests can get him out of that downward financial spiral. Prestige tells you how prestigious your character is, how much prestige they're gaining per month, and what they're gaining it from. Prestige is a very important stat in CK2, more so for tribal and nomadic rulers than it is for feudal ones, and we will talk about it later in its own video. Piety is basically a measure of how much of a positive representative of your character's specific faith they are. Since William is cynical, he doesn't gain very much piety per month, but you can also gain it by things like conquering heathens and heretics, converting provinces to your religion, and participating in crusades. Piety is notably used for forming kingdoms, but also the more piety you have, the more church leaders, and especially figures like the Pope, will like you. Around the border of our character here, we can also see some other interesting information. Now, the actual border around his portrait indicates his rank and government type. This is the border for a feudal duke, and if we look at King Philippe, he has the border for a feudal king. This little icon tells you that your leader is currently leading troops, which has effects on what they can and can't do with some of the other character interactions. This, of course, tells you who your liege is unless you're an independent ruler with no higher liege. Here's William's wife, and here is his current heir. Clicking on any of these portraits will take you to the character page for that character, where you can see all of their stats and relationships. This little button, if you have the Customizer DLC, allows you to alter the appearance of your character. This line right here tells you which titles you hold. Currently we have the Duchy of Normandy, the County of Rouen, and the Barony of Beaumont. And we have a claim on the Kingdom of England. It's a strong claim, which means it can be pressed even if there is another legitimate claimant currently holding the title. Weak claims can only be pressed in cases such as if the ruler is a child, if the ruler is a woman, or if the ruler is a legitimized bastard. And they can be inherited by our successor, whereas weak claims usually cannot. Diplomacy tells us that we are currently in a war against King Harold II of England, and we're hostile towards King Harald Hardrada of Norway due to our competing claim on the Kingdom of England. Finally, these tabs down here show our characters' relationships. The family tab is pretty self-explanatory with parents, grandparents, children, and siblings. Wards is a spot for any children we are personally educating who may or may not be related to us. This tab shows our friends and rivals, characters that we have a strong bond with and a strong enmity towards, respectively. Other rulers to whom we are tied by marriage, such as brothers-in-law, sisters-in-law, and so on. And any illicit lovers we might have that are not our formal spouse. Vassals show all of the, well, vassals under our command, as well as what they think of us. In the case of religious vassals in a Catholic religion, it will show their opinion of us and their opinion of the current Pope. If they like us more than the Pope, they'll pay us taxes, but if they like the Pope more than us, they'll pay the Pope taxes. So keeping your wealthy bishops happy is very important for the financial success of the realm. The Court tab shows anyone who is living at our court, which may include family members and vassals, but also just random advisors, commanders, and other people who happen to show up and be present in our halls. Pacts will show any formal diplomatic agreements we have with other rulers, and also the reason for them. This is where formal alliances are listed, which currently we don't have. They're shown in blue, whereas non-aggression pacts, of which we have several, are shown in green here. As you can see, we have a non-aggression pact with the Duke of Flanders due to the marriage between myself and Duchess Matilda. You can also get non-aggression pacts by marrying your close relatives to another ruler's close relatives. But it's not enough to be of the same dynasty, they have to be fairly closely related to you. And the final tab tells us who from our court, family, and vassals are currently abroad. As of right now, I myself, Duke William, am listed as abroad, even though I am leading troops in my capital county, which is probably just a bug related to the fact that we started this bookmark and haven't unpaused the game yet. Also keep in mind that these traits are dynamic. You can gain and lose traits over the course of play, depending on your decisions and certain events that might pop up. That's about all you need to know for the character screen. If you found this video informative, please be sure to subscribe so you can catch future Monarch Academies covering the rest of the menus and other topics related to Crusader Kings 2. And until then, thank you for attending Monarch Academy.